In the crowded, smoke-filled streets of ancient Rome, a man moves with the confidence of limitless wealth. This is Marcus Licinius Crassus, richer than the gods themselves, or so the legends say. His footsteps echo through marble corridors, where senators bow and merchants scramble for his attention. Gold flows through his fingers like water, yet beneath the gilded surface of his empire, a darker destiny stirs, one that will make his name synonymous with both riches and ruin. The late Roman Republic is a world of opportunity and danger, where fortunes rise and fall with the turning of political tides. Senators scheme in shadowed alcoves, generals conquer distant lands, and merchants amass treasures beyond imagination. Among them all, Crassus towers, a colossus whose empire is built not just on gold, but on the ashes of his rivals and the backs of thousands of slaves. His wealth is legendary. Ancient historians claim he possessed over 7,100 talents, equivalent to billions in today's currency. He owns vast estates, silver mines, and an army of skilled slaves. His private fire brigade controls Rome's most lucrative real estate market. When buildings burn, Crassus profits. When men fall into debt, Crassus collects. He is the puppet master pulling the strings of the Republic's economy. Yet even now, as Crassus surveys his city from the heights of the Palatine Hill, the fates whisper a warning that echoes through history. In Rome, no man is truly safe, and no fortune is truly secure. The very gold that elevates him will soon become the instrument of his most horrifying demise. The year is 87 BCE, and Rome bleeds as Gaius Marius unleashes his reign of terror. Crassus's father and brother lie dead, their heads mounted on spikes in the Forum, a grisly warning to all who opposed the new regime. The young Marcus Licinius Crassus watched helplessly as the fires of civil war consume his father's legacy. Driven into exile, the future richest man in Rome learns the brutal lessons of survival, trusting only his wits and his unbreakable will. Hidden in a Spanish cave, surrounded by loyal slaves who risk their lives to protect him, Crassus plots his return. The damp stone walls echo with his whispered vows of vengeance. He will not merely survive, he will rise higher than any Roman before him. The boy who lost everything will become the man who owns everything. When Sulla, the prominent Roman general and statesman during Rome's late Republican era, returns to challenge Marius, Crassus emerges from the shadows like a predator sensing opportunity. At the Battle of the Colline Gate, his tactical brilliance helps secure Sulla's victory and Rome's future. But victory brings its own rewards, and Crassus is quick to claim them. In the chaos of Sulla's proscriptions, where enemies of the state are stripped of property and life, Crassus sees not tragedy but opportunity. He moves through Rome like a vulture, purchasing confiscated estates at a fraction of their value. His methods are ruthless but legal, the perfect combination for a man who understands that in Rome, survival requires both cunning and capital. But Crassus's most infamous innovation comes from Rome's greatest weakness: fire. In a city of wooden buildings and narrow streets, flames spread like plague. Traditional firefighting relies on bucket brigades and prayer, woefully inadequate against serious blazes. Crassus recognizes opportunity in disaster and creates Rome's first professional fire brigade, staffed by his own slaves and equipped with the finest tools money can buy. When the alarm sounds, Crassus's men rush to the scene, not as saviors, but as negotiators. The desperate homeowner, watching his life's work consumed by flames, faces an impossible choice: sell to Crassus at whatever price he offers, or watch everything burn to ash. The contracts are signed with trembling hands as smoke fills the air and timber crashes around them. Only then do Crassus's firefighters spring into action, saving what remains of his newest acquisition. His wealth grows exponentially. The silver mines of Spain pour precious metal into his coffers. His estates stretch across Italy, worked by armies of slaves who toil from dawn to dusk. He owns architects, engineers, teachers, human capital that generates endless revenue. Yet for all his success, Crassus remains haunted by a fundamental truth: money alone cannot buy the one thing he craves most: military glory. While his wealth makes him powerful, It also makes him vulnerable to those who see him as nothing more than a glorified merchant. The whispers follow him through the Senate. Crassus the banker, they say. Crassus the moneylender. Never Crassus the conqueror. By 60 BCE, Crassus stands at the pinnacle of Roman society, but his position feels precarious. Julius Caesar returns from Spain with tales of conquest and chests full of gold. Pompey the Great has earned his title through victories across the Mediterranean, his name spoken with reverence in every corner of the Republic. Between these two military giants, Crassus feels diminished. The third wheel of what history will remember as the First Triumvirate. The alliance between the three most powerful men in Rome is born of necessity rather than friendship. Caesar needs financial backing for his political ambitions. Pompey requires legislative support for his veterans' land grants. Crassus possesses the wealth to fund their dreams and the influence to make them reality. Together, they effectively controlled the Roman state, dividing provinces and consulships among themselves like pieces on a game board. But Crassus chafes under the arrangement. While Caesar conquers Gaul and Pompey manages Spain from Rome, Crassus receives Syria, a wealthy province, but one that offers limited opportunities for the military glory he desperately seeks. The whispers continue. Crassus the financier, Crassus the enabler, never Crassus the hero. The solution appears in the form of Parthia, Rome's great eastern rival. This vast empire controls the lucrative trade routes connecting east and west. Intelligence reports speak of internal strife and weak leadership. To Roman eyes, Parthia appears ripe for conquest, another barbarian kingdom waiting to fall before superior Roman discipline. Crassus convinces himself that conquering Parthia will solve all his problems. Victory will bring military glory to match Caesar's triumphs in Gaul. The kingdom's legendary wealth will eclipse even his vast fortune. Most importantly, success will finally silence those who question his right to stand alongside Rome's greatest generals. The Senate hesitates. Parthia has honored its treaties with Rome, but Crassus's wealth speaks louder than senatorial concerns. Bribes flow like wine, and opposition crumbles before the promise of eastern riches. In 55 BCE, Crassus arrives in Syria, assembling a massive force, 7 legions totaling nearly 40,000 men, supported by 4,000 cavalry. Among his officers is his beloved son Publius, a proven warrior who served under Caesar in Gaul. The initial campaign proceeds smoothly. Roman forces cross the Euphrates, meeting minimal resistance. But Crassus's early success is actually part of a Parthian trap. General Serena deliberately draws the Romans deeper into the desert, away from supply lines and into terrain favoring Parthian cavalry. After wintering in Syria, Crassus leads his army back across the Euphrates, eager to complete his conquest. But the Parthians have assembled a force specifically designed to counter Roman tactics. The morning of June 9th, 53 BCE dawns clear and hot over the plains near Carrhae. Crassus arranges his forces in traditional formation, 40,000 men in perfect order, armor gleaming in the desert sun. This is the finest military machine the ancient world has produced, and Crassus believes it invincible. But as the Parthian army approaches, Roman confidence wavers. Instead of expected infantry formations, they face something unprecedented. A purely mobile force of 10,000 horse archers flowing around heavily armored cataphracts, creating a constantly shifting tactical nightmare. The battle opens with thunderous war drums and the whistle of arrows darkening the sky. The sustained missile barrage is unlike anything Romans have experienced. Composite bows drive iron-tipped arrows through bronze and leather with devastating effect. Men fall screaming as proud formations begin to waver. Publius Crassus, young and eager, makes the fatal decision that seals his father's doom. Leading a desperate cavalry charge, he plays directly into Serena's strategy. Cut off and surrounded, Publius's force is systematically destroyed. The young man falls with a spear through his chest, his severed head mounted on a spear and paraded before the Roman lines, while his father watches in horror. The psychological impact spreads like wildfire. The Parthians strike from impossible distances, then vanish before retaliation can reach them. The desert has become a killing ground with no escape. Crassus, his face streaked with sweat and dust, watches his dreams crumble. The richest man in Rome is now powerless, his gold worthless against military disaster. As night falls, his attempted retreat becomes a rout. The remnants of Rome's great eastern army stumble into Carrhae as dawn breaks, having lost nearly half their strength in a single day of combat. Crassus, broken by grief and the magnitude of his failure, faces the impossible task of salvaging something from the disaster. His son is dead, his army shattered, and his enemies control the surrounding desert. Surena, rather than pressing his advantage with an immediate assault, chooses to demonstrate Parthian magnanimity by offering negotiations. He sends envoys under flags of truce, proposing a meeting between commanders to discuss terms for Roman withdrawal. The offer seems reasonable. Both sides have suffered casualties, and the Parthians have proven their point about Roman vulnerability. For Crassus, desperate to save at least some of his men, the proposal offers hope. Despite warnings from subordinates who suspect treachery, he agrees to the parley. His desperation to end the nightmare overcomes his tactical judgment. The meeting is arranged in neutral ground between the two armies, with both commanders accompanied by small retinues of officers. As Crassus walks toward his fate, the weight of his failures presses down like the desert heat. Behind him lie the ruins of his ambitions. Ahead waits an enemy who has every reason to hate what he represents. What happens next remains disputed among ancient historians, but the outcome is clear. The meeting erupts into violence, with Parthian soldiers overpowering the Roman delegation. Whether this is premeditated treachery or the result of misunderstandings and mutual suspicions, Crassus finds himself a prisoner of the man who has destroyed his army and killed his son. Surena's treatment of his captive reveals the depth of Parthian anger toward Roman ambitions. This is not merely a defeated general to be ransomed or executed quickly. Crassus represents everything the Parthians despise about Roman expansion. His invasion was unprovoked aggression motivated purely by greed and ambition, launched without regard for Parthian sovereignty or the lives that would be lost. The decision to execute Crassus in a manner befitting his character reflects both Parthian justice and their understanding of symbolic messaging. The method chosen is both practical and deeply symbolic. Molten gold, the metal that has defined Crassus's life and motivated his disastrous invasion, will become the instrument of his death. Parthian craftsmen heat gold until it reaches liquid form, creating a substance that burns at temperatures exceeding 1,900 degrees Fahrenheit. The man who worshipped gold above all else will experience its true nature, beautiful but deadly, precious but ultimately destructive. The execution takes place before an audience of Parthian nobles and captured Roman soldiers, making it both a judicial proceeding and a public demonstration. Crassus is forced to his knees while Parthian soldiers hold his mouth open, preventing any last words or pleas for mercy. The molten gold is poured slowly, ensuring maximum suffering while creating a spectacle that will be remembered throughout the ancient world. The physical agony is unimaginable, liquid metal burning through mouth, throat, and internal organs, while Crassus remains conscious. But the symbolic message is equally important. The man who valued gold above human life, who built his fortune through exploitation and violence, experiences gold's true nature as a destructive force. His worship of wealth has literally become his damnation. The aftermath of Crassus's death sends shockwaves throughout the ancient world that extend far beyond the immediate military disaster. News of the execution reaches Rome within weeks, creating panic among the ruling class, who suddenly realize their eastern frontier is not secure, and their enemies possess both the capability and willingness to inflict humiliating defeats on Roman arms. Crassus's severed head becomes the final insult to his memory. According to Plutarch, it is sent to King Orodes II, who is celebrating a wedding alliance with the Armenian king. The head arrives during a performance of Euripides' Bacchae, where it is used as a theatrical prop, the ultimate mockery of Roman pretensions to civilization and power. The political consequences within Rome are immediate and severe. The triumvirate that dominated Roman politics for years is broken, leaving Pompey and Caesar as rivals rather than partners. Without Crassus's wealth and influence to balance their competing ambitions, the two remaining strongmen begin the political maneuvering that will eventually lead to civil war and the end of the Roman Republic.